This is block 5, the Roaring Twenties, section 5, Isolationism, with the section starting with the term isolationism. Going back to George Washington in his farewell address to the American people, the United States traditionally had been a country unconcerned with countries around the world. And Washington said, stay clear of entangling alliances was the term that he used. And the fact that America was, such a big place with a continent to conquer made the United States not particularly concerned with foreign affairs traditionally in its entire history. That changed, as we know, with progressivism and American imperialism, and then, of course, the United States sent, millions of men to France to fight in the First World War. But the sense that Americans should not deal with the rest of the world was then, after World War I, even stronger, really, than it had been in a long time. That World War I was seen by most Americans as a waste of time, a waste of money, a waste of life, and a waste of giving away, their liberties and their freedoms to fight the war. And the public soured very quickly after World War I on the fact that Americans had fought in World War I. And a spirit of isolationism did start to pervade many, many Americans, especially Americans in the Midwest and in the prairie and on the mountain states, Americans that were even further away from the rest of the world than Americans on the coast. The United States was protected by its imagined that it was protected by its vast oceans, the Atlantic and the Pacific, and that the rest of the world could really stew in its own juice. And the rest of the world could deal with its own problems and not involve the United States, which had, things of its own to do. An economy to rebuild, prosperity to enjoy. That the world was a dangerous place, and people came to America to get away from the rest of the world, and that America would really had no business involving itself, and that its involvement from the Spanish-American War through World War I, many Americans believed was a mistake. And this sentiment was electorally captured by the Republican Party. The Republican Party was generally an isolationist party during the 1920s and 1930s, and did not want much to do with the rest of the world. The rest of the world was corrupt and dangerous, and there was communists out there. And the United States was a place where you could get away from all the nastiness of the rest of the world. And it was a very powerful idea. It's still politically a very powerful idea that the rest of the world should just go stew in its own juice. It's not the United States' responsibility or job to be involved everywhere at once. Now, that being said, do not assume that the 1920s, that's why there's a question mark after isolationism in the title of the section. The United States did not, as popularly, commonly assumed, completely just withdraw into this turtle shell of isolationism. But the United States still did deal with the rest of the world. It just did not do it from this crusading idea like Woodrow Wilson had to make the world safe for democracy. In the 1920s, the American response to the rest of the world was kind of, one with a gimlet eye. That they looked on the rest of the world as something that, you had to deal with, but you certainly didn't enjoy doing it.